Everyone's saying we need to get off screens, unplug, do a digital detox, but let's be real. No one's doing that. We have jobs we have to do.
That's right. So on today's episode, we bring in Kate Noel, SVP of People Operations, right here at Morning Brew Inc., to talk real, actionable tactics on how you can unplug but still do great work. Let's get into it. Before we get into our conversation with Kate, Kayla, can you get off your phone?
Huh? What? Oh, sorry. I'm so used to staring at my screens that I forgot we were filming.
Okay, well, I'm slightly concerned about that. I think you need a digital detox.
You're definitely right. But it's so hard to do any work without my screens. I need a day in person with all of my coworkers.
Well, you're in luck. With Industrious, you can book meeting rooms by the hour or by the day without needing a membership. So you can get your team or company together for some good old-fashioned IRL working. And with over 250 plus locations, you can always find a workspace that works for you.
Look, if it gets me off my phone, I'm down. Plus, I'm always a sucker for those Industrious perks like free breakfast, shout out Bagel Mondays, weekly happy hours, stocked fridges. Who doesn't need a little string cheese boost during the day? And on-site staff who can help with whatever we need.
Try out Industrious for yourself with a day pass or meeting room booking. Now 50% off for Per My Last Email listeners. Visit industriousoffice.com/PMLE to get your discount or free tour.
That's industriousoffice.com/PMLE for 50% off your first day pass or meeting room booking.
We are back with Kate Noel, SVP of People Operations, the new host of the podcast, people person at Morning Brew Inc., and setting a record for the most times we've ever had one guest on the show, your third appearance.
My goodness.
Basically family.
Mm-hmm.
Welcome to Per My Last Email once again.
Thank you. Third time's always the charm. Thank you for bringing me back thrice.
Of course. And I want to reiterate this. You now have your own podcast because we kind of started your career. You came on our podcast.
Right, famously.
We put you in touch with some people at Morning Brew Inc., and now you have your own show, People Person. Give us like a quick TLDR of the show before we get into our topic today.
Yeah, of course. So People Person, the idea behind the show is that it's led by an HR diva, which is me.
Yes,
Hello.
of course.
But for HR people. I think it's oftentimes that HR is creating space for others, and we're thinking about how to service employees, headcount, all that jazz. But what is in existence for us?
Mm-hmm.
And so HR for us, by us. And the idea is that we're bringing in people to talk about the topics that we care about. And so that's what we're doing so far. So far, so good. Y'all keep bringing me back, so I'm thankful for it. And that's the idea behind the show.
Okay, love it. Well, everyone go check out that show, particularly if you work in HR. It's fantastic. And as you know, Kate is so dynamic. But we're not talking about People Person anymore. Now we're talking about digital detox, the topic for today. And is a digital detox even possible if you work maybe a knowledge worker, quote unquote, job where you kind of are always plugged in? So I just want to set the stage with a maybe lofty question up top. Is this even something people should be trying to do at all? Like, is unplugging in a 21st century job possible?
Well, I do think it's possible, but I don't know if the question is, should people be unplugging more so than should you set boundaries for yourself? I feel like that's really more like the crux of the question. Unplugging, yeah, you could just take, whatever hiatus you want to take however long, but like, are you doing the things that actually needs to be done during that unplugging?
Right, because it's not like, oh, I'm just going to like unplug my computer and shut it and like go write letters to all my coworkers to get stuff done. Like that's just like not reality.
I have personally been doing that.
Have you?
Yeah.
Oh, shoot. Okay, that makes sense why you're not answering your Slack. Perfect. No, but I think that's totally true because like an unplug can be like a short period of time. It can be a break. But I think the reality is like the technology exists and the technology has unlocked like so many new different ways of working, whether they're better or worse, like whatever. The reality is with us is like the society that we live in. It's like, how do you manage your relationship with technology and like how do you manage your relationship with work through that technology in a way that is sustainable?
Maybe a hot take. I feel like digital detox is a little overrated.
Really?
I feel like everyone is kind of obsessed with the idea. I would say like not every pixel is created equally. So like it really depends on what you're doing.
Okay, that was a bar.
I mean, sir,
That
can we
was
sit in there for a little bit?
Come on now.
All
One more
right.
again.
Come
again.
on
When you thought of
Come
that,
on now.
did you write that down? We're all
Not every
excited about
pixel
it.
is created equally.
Love
folks.
it.
Yeah. Play the hits again.
Yeah.
It depends on what you're doing.
Right.
And so like, okay, if I'm on my phone and I'm reading a Kindle book or something like that, or I'm listening to a podcast, is that the same stimulation as scrolling TikTok for 4 hours? It's like categorically different. So I do think it matters what you're doing. And I think people quickly go to, let me just like turn my phone completely off. That's going to be my solution. That feels like a very extreme measure that isn't actually sustainable. Instead of like, okay, what are the apps that I want to avoid using? How do I slow that down? What are the boundaries I want to set on like Slack at work versus Slack at home? How do I figure that out? This idea that you just like completely unplug seems a little like, okay, you're going to do that for like 3 days. Then I know you're going to be back on your phone after. Like, it seems like an extreme measure.
Yeah.
I think a much more practical strategy is to figure out like how to integrate this into your day to day that doesn't feel like you're overwhelmed to the point where you need to move to a cabin in the woods.
Right, exactly. Yeah, but I think you're spot on, which is that it's just like not possible. Like you can feel like idealistic and like, oh, what has tech done for me? And the answer is like a lot. And that is true in your personal life, but it's, I think, most true at work. Especially, for example, for Morning Brew, right? We have a hybrid workplace. And so we are not just like talking to people that are, a few desks away. We're talking to people across the country. And that has enabled us to bring in the best talent, but it's also enabled like work to exist seamlessly. So like that's a net good, I would say. But like, I don't know, when I'm on Slack and it's 9 p.m. and I'm like spiraling and like messaging a bunch of people and like causing other people to have stress when it's like me business, like my problem.
Me because you're
Exactly.
Then a meeting with HR pops up randomly.
Right. So I guess like as, thinking about from the HR perspective, how are you approaching like boundary setting as a company? Is that something you're even thinking about?
Yeah, all the time. It's what keeps me up. But no, the reason why I say it does is because it's exactly to your point, Kyle, where it's like, sure, we can tell everyone to like unplug, but that's not sustainable. Like what's important is the discipline that comes from boundary setting. Because at the end of the day, it's like, I think the unplugging completely comes from like doing it as ad hoc, but boundary setting should be like in the structure of the business. And so for me, as I think about policies, like what are the things that I can ensure exist so that it's not given to a manager to put their own interpretation of what unplugging looks like or boundary setting is. Like, no, like this is just what it is. So examples I've seen in other companies, not necessarily here, is like no meeting days, for example, where it's like you're just allowing your employees to have heads down work. Now, at your discretion, you better be working and not be, at Trader Joe's in the meantime. But like doing the work. But the idea is that as an HR person, pairing that with leadership, we've created that space. That's the boundary of Thursdays, no meetings. It is strictly just to get your head down work done. And so hopefully that helps in the sense where if you've been feeling like drowning in like all these meetings, Slack's happening all the live long day, it's in existence. Or creating, week-long time off, in the calendar if your company could sustain that. That's boundary setting. And it's like, look, I better not see a single Slack fly across the internet during this time. If you're hearing it from me as a leader, then you're assuming that, they're extremely serious about this. So like, let me also like follow suit.
It's so interesting because I really like the idea of like a week off, which we do, right? At least we do it twice. And
I've heard next year 4 times. Right?
Okay, I have never said that, but I'm not against it.
But like, I really love it because like, as somebody who has a very hard time like disconnecting from work, for a variety of reasons, one of them being that like I feel like important if I'm needed, and I feel like my like tether to like Slack and email is like I need to be present because the world is going to fall apart if I can't respond within the next 20 minutes. Obviously it's not true, and like I've been working on that and I'm getting better. But like I just remember the first time that we had the like week of July 4th off, and I was like, I felt so free, and I was like, this was truly the most like relaxed I'd ever felt since starting like to work a day job. Because I was like, I know for a fact that nobody is asking me to do anything. And like, it actually helped, like that realization that I came back to work so like refreshed and excited, like was like, oh, I need to do that more often. Like this is not sustainable. And so I really, really love that. And I think it's like great that the whole company like can sign off. What I don't love is a no meeting day, like a forced no meeting day.
Really?
Yeah.
Why?
Oh, don't tell her. I love that idea.
He was like, thank you, Kate. No, but why? Why don't you like that? What's your idea?
Okay, so, and this is funny because I'm kind of surprised. I think it's the same thing where it's like, it's nice that, and this is not something that we do at Morning Brew.
No.
At least maybe.
Well, not anymore. I mean, I was going to make it.
But like, for me, like, I think maybe if it's team specific, I get it. But like, what's to say that like me having a bunch of meetings isn't me being super productive. And like, if I can't have meetings on Wednesday and like maybe my job is I need to unlock like other people's like projects, I need to see how things are going, like that might hamper or like, I don't know, like make it harder for me to do my job. And I like it if it's team specific. I think if a team can be like, I can do all of my work without a meeting, then we can do no meetings for the team
But
or whatever.
I think, I mean, if it's team specific and you're a cross functional role, then like then you don't have a no meeting day because those people are going to book that day. Like I think I don't think you bring up bad points. I just think this becomes like a collective action problem where unless it's enforced and everyone has to do it, it falls apart, right? Like you can say like, like this is Wednesday's a no meeting day, but like there's exceptions, then it quickly is not going to be a no meeting day. And so Kate, I'm interested from your perspective. I think the reason why our summer break week off works is because there are a few exceptions because like very limited few exceptions, but like everyone does truly for the most part take it off. So then no one's bothering you because no one is working.
Right.
If half the company took it off, it would not work because then you'd still be slacking and still be pinging. You feel like you're missing out. So how do you set that up when it's not a week off for everyone? Like where like an individual taking time off when everyone else is working still feels the pressure maybe to work still.
That's such a good question. And that goes back to culture. So like, I know people tend to worry about like the pressure of having to get things done, but it really is then about like the team and then hopefully the whole ecosystem of your company to understand that pressure is going to be fine, but you should not assume that it's an emergency situation and it turns into chaos. And so like, even when I think back into what you were saying about like the no meeting days, I can imagine that then being terrifying for certain people thinking like, oh my gosh, like Thursdays are going to be the days we don't have meetings and I actually need to talk to people. But I think it's about the introduction of something new. Because if you're in a company that already has that infrastructure, people have already then started building their work life around knowing that, right? Because think about even our policy. We know we have July 4th off. We know we have that week off and then the end of the year. I promise you, the weeks leading up to it or the months leading up to it, people are already using that in their everyday language of saying, oh, and as you know, July, we're going to have that week off. You're already preparing building up to that. So it's not like a hard stop of like immediately like we're one and done.
Surprise.
Yeah. And then when you think about the individual experience, then if you're seeing other people around you be mindful of the fact that like you're going to take the time off and there's already a contingency plan on how to ensure the work is not being disrupted by this person being off or unplugging for whatever amount of time that is, that's just an example of PTO. Like that should already exist to whatever capacity in which it does. And so you should want to be at a company that supports that already and feel okay to feel like, hey, like I'm going to come back to a lot of work, but like it's not going to be to my detriment or like my job security is not on the line because I took X amount of time because I needed to be well.
And they've done, I mean, this is like what everyone says when they don't know the specific research, where they're like, they've done studies.
People have said in the past.
But they have done studies. I just don't know which ones. Where like these like half no meeting days are an increase to productivity.
Yeah.
And like the reason it works is if you're like, I'm going to block time Wednesday morning to do deep work, but it's only you, like I'm still pinging you Wednesday morning because like I didn't do that. And now you're getting rings and pings and distractions and you feel pulled or compelled to check Slack. When it's institutionalized, it's like no one message people early on, like from 9 to 12 on Wednesday, because that's deep work time. It can definitely wait 3 hours. Or if you really need me, like text me, but do not Slack me. And then it becomes this institutional norm that Kate's talking about that allows everyone to like actually get the benefit of that. If you try to do it individually, it falls apart because other people aren't on the same page.
Right. And I think it becomes like where I agree is that the like no meetings or those kind of like employer-wide, you know, boundaries that are set is that then it doesn't rely on like individual willpower, which is like, I need to do deep work and therefore I'm going to like ignore all of the notifications that are like popping up in my life.
Yeah. In order to like pull it off, you have to like find a great playlist on Spotify, go in a dark room, put on noise canceling headphones, mute Slack, mute email, unplug your computer, like get in Lotus Pose. Like it's damn near impossible.
Right. And it also like, I think if the culture at a company is an expectation of immediate response, then you taking the time to do deep work, which is ultimately what the company wants you to do, right? They want you to do work that furthers, you know, your career and the job and whatever. But if I'm like, I'm slacking you at 10 a.m. on a Wednesday and like you're in like do not disturb and you're not responding for 2 extra hours, I'm like, what are you working right now? Like, what are you even doing? And so I think that is such a hard thing to break out of and does require like top down approach or like really, really high quality communication from that individual as like, I promise I am reading a book. Like, I promise I am thinking about something that I need to be thinking about. It's not that I'm at Trader Joe's, you know, like I will respond to you at noon, but that feels very hard to do.
The more you do it, though, the easier it gets.
Yeah.
And this is coming from like my own experience. Like I am a 24/7 type of service with HR, and I realized it was becoming difficult for me to do the work outside of firefighting because like, yes, there's always going to be a crisis. And not that we have a whole bunch of crises at the company, but there's always something happening, right? And I still understood, like, in order for me to have the right kind of work being done, I need to sit and think, like, even for just 2 seconds. And so what I've put for myself is like, well, I might as well say that, like, Mondays are my deep work days. Like, it has to be that. And it's not like a full day. Like, I'll leave a little space in between because, you know, at the end of the day, things happen.
Right.
But then I have to enforce the boundary. And I know it's hard for individuals to be the one to do it. It could depend on many things. Maybe you're more junior, or maybe there's a certain culture that like is influencing your confidence in how to be boundary setting. But it's also a life skill. Like, I hate to get so woo-woo about it, but like the way you show up in work also is how you would show up in your life. Like, there are things that's gonna require corporate bravery or corporate courage for you to say, like, in order for me to be the best version for you, respect my time.
Yeah.
And signaling it, maybe not through words. Have it as your Slack away message where you're literally saying, I'm doing X, Y, and Z. Slow to respond, being a better employee. Like, that could be ways where people are like, oh, okay, well, she probably won't get back to me right away. You know what it is that I'm doing without me having to say the things. Or even set away like an away message in your emails. Like, don't just leave it open-ended where because people don't know what it is that you're doing. Yeah, human nature is to assume the worst, unfortunately. But if you start doing that, that starts to educate people to understand like, oh, this is what Kate's doing during this time.
And we'll be right back after this. Okay, back to the show.
I love the it's like a Slack hack, which is like use the emojis.
Yeah.
And
I love it.
Tell people what's up. I like this idea, and Kate, you said something I think really impactful, which is you wanted to move away from like constantly firefighting and do deep work and more like strategic work. And I think oftentimes we position work-life balance as like you're giving up something from work so you can have this like enriching life. And I think that's actually a pretty bad framing, because then people who want to grow in their career feel like work-life balance is like negative for their career. And instead, the way you're framing it is if you actually want to do deep, impactful work, you need time to focus. And if you're stuck firefighting, that's where actually a lot of junior employees get caught up. They don't actually carve out time to do deeper strategic work, to show they understand the business, to show they can drive these projects forward. And that requires actually owning your time. And to me, that's a much more empowering like feeling. Is like, no, work-life balance isn't because like you don't want to succeed at work. This like balance or boundaries are because you do want to succeed at work and you need them to do the deep work that's actually going to get rewarded. I think we often talk about this the wrong way, and it actually takes people who want to be successful in their career and like makes them do behaviors that actually aren't good.
Literally that. Like, it's what you're taught. Like, it's like, oh no, you need to do X, Y, and Z. Put in this many hours. Like, show up in people's faces and like, this is what you should do. But it's like, you're just doing it for the sake of doing it. And it's adding no real value to anyone who would be on the receiving end of it. You're burnt out. You're tired. Your boss is like, well, that's cute. Well, can you do this other project? Like, no one is going to be truly satisfied in the long term. And if you're thinking about your career, that's what you need to start putting in place. Like, I implore every single employee that exists in the great state of United States of America, find the time to invest in yourself. At the end of the day, yes, find a company that can do it. Makes it a whole lot easier. Or join a startup and try to put the policies in place yourself. But like, it is going to require some personal advocacy for yourself in order to do it. I promise you, it'll end up working out in your favor in the end.
So you've mentioned already that you have, Mondays are your deep work time. How have you like experienced, or what has been your experience with trying to set better boundaries perhaps, or like trying to maybe distance yourself from all of the like urges of being in technology, and like how has that gone for you on top of the like Mondays for deep work?
Awfully. I'm trying my best to be better at it, honestly. I think it just has to do with the nature of my job. Like, so what I've noticed is like if I'm finding it difficult to quote unquote unplug and not be so elbow deep in technology, I give myself in the evening outside of like quote unquote work hours to just be in touch with myself, whether it's like reading a book, taking a walk, talking to my kids, because I like them. They're great. And like doing things like that. Now, the balance of it all, sometimes it does require me to get back into the work after the midnight hour to do it. But, which I think is another interesting thing, like people think the balance is like the number of hours that you're doing or whatever. But like I appreciate the hours where I do step back and get back into my reality and center myself so that when I do get back into the work or to the tech, I'm feeling like a fresh wind. Like there's a refreshing that comes from that. And I'm more open to doing that work because I know I got time for myself somewhere in there.
Right. And so it doesn't necessarily matter. Like you could be working from 9 to 7 and instead you're working from 9 to 5 and then, 10 to midnight or something. Like you're still getting that work done.
Yeah.
It's just that you're taking the time to like recenter yourself before getting back into it.
And that's specific to me. Like I also want to make sure people understand like there will not be a one answer fits all for everyone. You're in different parts of your life. Like that 9 to 5, yeah, I have kids, so I want to be able to do the pickup. I want them to know I'm here, like I birthed you. So, I'm around. But that's what I'm willing to do to add, a richness to my life that will then allow me to show up into work in the way that I feel comfortable with and that I think is sustainable. So
I really like that.
I love it. And I think it's also about like intentionality of your time.
Yes.
Like I would rather spend 2 hours away from work where I'm away from my phone, I'm away from my computer, I'm not thinking about work, I'm engaged with my daughter or my wife or friends.
Sure.
And it feels like I'm fully there and then get back to work as opposed to like a combo of 6 hours where I'm doing all of that, but I'm thinking about work and I'm kind of checking Slack on the side. And that's what I think burns people out is when they never get away from it. And you can always come back. It is about, I want to spend every hour of my day being intentional, whether it's with work or with life. And you can get a lot more done that way than like trying to do a combination of both for forever.
I think also something that I've struggled with personally is like you're talking about the quality of your time away from work, but I think it's also the quality of time away from like technology. So for example, like something I've struggled with a lot is when I'm having my free time, my reset moments or whatever, I'm still on my phone. And so like my brain is having a hard time differentiating between like this is work time and this is like this is the break because the actions that I'm doing are similar, right? Yes, I'm looking at a screen and like I'm answering Slack messages or I'm looking at my phone and I'm answering texts. It's like they're both so similar that I don't actually ever feel like I'm taking a break, which allows it to bleed into each other. I'm answering Slacks later because I'm like, well, I was going to be on my phone anyways. Or I'm like answering texts earlier because I'm like, well, I was going to be looking at a screen anyways. And so I think like what you're mentioning, Kyle, which is like the quality of the time that you have away from work is like something that is so unexpectedly important.
100%.
And I would rather have like high quality boundaries with technology and screens away from work so that I can like, it feels like I'm upholding those boundaries more strongly because it's like playtime is when I'm taking a walk or like walking my dog or like hanging out with my friends. And like work time is being on the screens. And like that might even help that like boundary feel much more like, I don't know, restorative. I don't know.
Can I be annoying
Yeah.
and like throw a wrench in this just a little bit?
Yeah.
Because then it kind of goes back to what I was saying where there's not a one answer or one size fits all. Because I can then imagine someone who's like, okay, what I want to do in my free time is be on TikTok.
Well, I do. That's my problem.
And so what I would think in that is, because I'm the same way. Like I'm on my Slack, I'm on my phone, I'm doing all this. But I feel like when I'm on TikTok, I'm doing that for me. Like I think it's really like that mindset of like when I'm doing the work stuff, yeah, it's for me, like obviously. But it's like, is it for me?
Right.
You know what I mean? Right. But like when you're on TikTok and you're like aimlessly going through things or you're getting excited of like the content that you're looking at, or like if you're a gamer and like that's the stuff that you're living for, or you like a good ebook, you got your little Kindle out and you're scrolling through it, but like that's for you.
Right.
And so I almost wonder if it's like for folks who, to your point, where it's like because I have the device in my hand, I can easily start drifting back into the work life of it. Maybe it's then something where it's like, I know for me, like when I am on TikTok, I'm doing that on my iPad. Like I have like a complete.
And you need the big screen for
You know,
TikTok.
like, look, if I'm gonna do the thing, let me do the thing. I want surround sound. No, but truly in the sense where it's like on my iPad, I don't have Slack on my iPad.
Yeah.
Right.
Or like I don't have like Gmail on my iPad. Now, like it's really more so the idea of like if you're gonna do something on your phone, let it just be dedicated to like the personal stuff that you enjoy, and then your laptop is like the work stuff. Or like if there's an app that can like remove those things for however many hours that you're gonna be on it, so you're not lured back into like getting the work life of it all.
I mean, I think that makes sense.
100%. I've personally, like, I come home from work, I'm like stressed, and then I do something for like 3 or 4 hours that's like totally not refreshing at all.
Right.
And then you're like, fuck, like you're more stressed. You're like, okay, now I've wasted 4 hours. I'm still stressed about that work thing, but I didn't recharge. And like you stay up later and then you don't get good sleep. And like it is this spiral where you're like, if I would have just set everything down and for 1 hour done something that's truly restorative for me, I would have been happier. I could have got right back into the work. I would have gone to bed at an earlier hour. I would have been like in a much better spot. So I do think it just comes down to like the intentionality and the quality of the time you're spending doing something that truly is, whether it's TikTok or a book, restorative to you.
Yeah, I don't know that like for me TikTok is restorative. I feel like I end up getting like just so much more stress.
Yeah, well,
But you know,
stop
think
doing
about
it.
Then stop doing it.
I know.
One, but think about plan it. Like I think it's like meal planning. Like you know how you say like, oh, I want to eat better and I want to blah 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 blah. But if you allow yourself to just go through life and just assume like, oh, when I get hungry, I'll find the right thing to eat.
You won't.
You will not. Like you'll default to what your factory setting is, which you know for me is a little honey bun. I love a good honey bun. I'm not gonna hold you. And ordering wings on Uber Eats. Yes, of course there will not be a change. But if I sat down and planned and said, okay, for this week, this is gonna be the things that I want to do for myself. So when I come right off of like this crazy ass spiral of work, I know what it is that I'm gonna do. That's the intention to your point that like goes into it. Or just saying like, okay, I know TikTok does not make me feel that great. While I may think in theory it does. Okay, so what is the thing that I want to do instead? Like, don't allow yourself to figure it out in the moment and when you're depleted because you're not at 100% to figure it out. Like that honestly is like the beginning of like the self-care of it, of like figuring out what you want and then implementing it in the week.
So we will be deleting TikTok off your phone.
Right. So I deleted it for 2 years, brought it back, and it's been like has a hold on me for.
Now you're doing Celsius powder.
I know that's crazy, man.
Well, Kate, you remind me. I think there's a quote approximately like you don't rise to the level of your willpower, you fall to the level of your systems.
Hello.
And that's what it is. It's like designing your time, designing your environment. And when you're feeling good, it's so easy to be like, oh yeah, when I get home, I'm totally making a salad. Then you go through the whole day and you're like, McDonald's, Uber Eats, on the subway. I perfectly time it so when I get home, the McDonald's is right there.
A man with strategy.
I mean, come on. It's bad. Like you need to.
Sounds like you've never done this before.
Oh, I've done it too many times. You need to design your environment or you will break. And once you're in that spiral of like not feeling good, it's hard to design the system. So like getting that set up from day one is really, really important. Kate, I want to talk to you about something like one more kind of adjacent topic to this, which is this like, don't do as I do as I say type mentality that I think a lot of leaders have, a lot of people have. And like, I'll throw my own self into this. Everyone does this and it's so annoying. And I do it too. So I'm yelling at myself like, oh my God, work-life balance is so important.
So good.
You need to take breaks. You need to have boundaries. And people act like they're like shielding you from like the cruelty of capitalism. Like, no, don't fall victim to it like I do. And then you brag though. You're like, but I work like all the time. Like, oh my God, I had to respond to like a Slack at 9 p.m. I'm shooting emails off at 11 p.m. Like, that's so annoying. How do you avoid that? And like, how do we just like?
I'm so guilty of that.
I just feel like admitting like, yeah, your job isn't 9 to 5. Like your job will sometimes be 8 to 8, or like it's not 9 to 5, it's 9 to 4, and then it's 7 to 10. But I feel like we can't tell that to someone. We have to say, no, it's 9 to 5. We really respect boundaries around here. It feels kind of like BS in some ways. Is there a way to better message that to colleagues, to yourself, so people are all on the same page?
So what I say for myself, because I'm guilty of that as well. Like as much as you know me, like
this is your job. Like you're supposed to do that.
Well,
you know,
you will message people, which I think is good, on Slack when they're supposed to be off, saying get off Slack.
Yes.
But then I also hear you saying you fall victim to it too, and you're up late at night. So like it feels, and everyone does this. It feels like something's missing here. We're like talking out of both sides of our mouth a little bit.
So for me, how I view it is because my job requires me to do certain things a certain way.
Mm-hmm.
I think the words that come out of my mouth carry a lot of weight because I'm the HR person.
Yeah.
So if I'm almost not insinuating, but if I'm making it like a default, like, yeah, everyone should be working 8 to 8, that is a very detrimental thing to say overall. What I do tell people is that, like, based on what you believe your workload is, I want you to feel comfortable approaching it what you believe is best. I kind of put the decision back in their hands as opposed to me dictating, like, yeah, we're 9 to 5, but like I should not be seeing you get off earlier than 7. That's crazy to me because everyone's way of approach to work is different. And what I do hate, and I agree with you on, is like, yeah, oh my goodness, I cannot believe everyone gets to work 9 to 5, but me, I was sitting there at 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and I was like, shut up.
Yeah.
Like, for me, like if it comes up, it's because someone's actually literally asking me directly.
Yeah.
But I am never the one to like talk and say like, oh, like this ain't great. You know what I'm saying? I'm doing it because I want to.
Yeah.
I want my work to be at a certain level, but that is my personal choice. Where things go wrong is when a company is dictating to you how you should approach your work outside of what's considered standard hours. If you believe doing the extra work of like looking at spreadsheets, reading podcasts, and all the extra jazz is important to your job being done well, carry on. Healthily.
Yeah.
But like once we start dictating and telling you like, oh, actually, even if you're done with your work, you need to exist on Slack for the sake of, and now that's performative. Like you're not really doing it for the sake of doing it genuinely. And so the way I handle it is, I like to approach things with like a flair of humor. So like if I'll hear a manager say like, yeah, man, that was crazy. I had a Slack that I need to send at 7. I'm like, oh, and you did it as a schedule send for the next day. Right?
Yeah.
Well, because it makes a lot of sense because it's like it is your job to set the tone for the company. And so you want to set a tone that is attainable. Like you want people to feel like they don't have to be working crazy hours, but that doesn't mean that they'll never be working crazy hours or like you'll never be working crazy hours because you truly believe in work-life balance and you truly believe that everyone should work on a schedule that makes sense for them and like do their best work. But that doesn't mean that like she's, like you're all of a sudden free from, doing the work yourself at 7 p.m. I think you do a really good job like at Morning Brew of like setting expectations, but also being like, but like sometimes like shit happens.
Yeah, but it depends on the job. Like I think it's just such a broad, you know what I mean? Like it's such like a broad thing where like it depends on the job, it depends on the company, it depends on the level of the work that it depends on the quarter you're in. You know, it could be Q2 and you're chilling like a villain, and then Q3 come in, whoop your ass. Like you're like, okay, well I gotta lock in. How wild would that be for me to say, well, yeah, I know there's a lot coming down the pipeline now, but. You could just chill. No, I'm gonna need you to lock in or whatever the lock in means. But like do it in a way that makes sense and then have the conversation. I think that goes back to communication. Like don't internalize all the work that you're doing. Like make it a candid conversation with your manager, making sure that like we're keeping each other accountable of like the work that's being done and being done well. That informs your manager how to help the team move forward, how to help you move forward and make sure that things are happening in a sustainable way.
I think the other thing that's really important is if you are feeling overwhelmed or the pressure to like put in a lot of hours, to me that just means that it's not clear to you or your manager hasn't articulated what actually matters in your job. And so if you can say like, what am I evaluated on? What are the metrics that matter to my job? Then it's on you to figure out how to best achieve those metrics. And if it takes you 10 to 4 and you're knocking it out of the park, like God bless you. You figured it out. If you need to wake up a little early or like, okay, it's a stressful quarter to your point, but at least you know what matters. In lieu of that, the only thing that matters is perception. And that's where you get very performative actions like, I was working so hard because you can't point to a metric that actually you moved. So you have to prove to your boss that you were working hard. The only way to do that is like, be performative. So that is like such a great, like, I think action step is like, if you don't know what matters in your job, you need to figure that out because that will allow you to actually set appropriate boundaries and go about your work in a way that works for you.
I think that was the best thing you've ever said on this podcast.
Wow.
You're welcome. I tossed that right up to you, boo. You're welcome.
It was a little give and go.
Good. That was
a little give and go action.
Yeah, that was really good.
Wow.
I like that a lot.
I love that.
So listen to Kyle, I guess.
He knows what he's doing.
For the first time, I'm like, whew, he knows what he's talking about.
First time ever. Do we want to end with like one tactic each as a summary of the episode?
Sure.
So people are listening to this. They want to set better boundaries. They want to be able to unplug, but they still are super ambitious. They want to grow in their career. Let's wrap it up. One tactic each. What could they do tomorrow to start down this journey of maybe a more sustainable ambition? Kayla, we'll start with you.
Sure, I'll go first. I think Slack emojis. Was that what you're gonna use? Oh no, I'm sorry.
It's okay, I'm joking.
No, I think the Slack emoji is the thing that's like, it's like dipping your toe into having boundaries with your time, like with your work time. Like, oh, the reason why I'm not responding right now is because I'm away from keyboard. I'm at an event site or whatever. Or like the reason why I'm not responding right now is because I have a project due at the end of the day. And you can do that with your cute little like sloth emoji or like the little like
the emoji.
dots, so fun. Little camera for recording. And like we've talked about this in the past, but I think that's like a way to hold a boundary and say, I'm not going to respond to you or wait to Slack me without being like, hey girl, you messaged me too early or whatever. Like, I think it's like a very like passive way to be like, this is why I'm not responding. Yeah.
Slack emoji. I love it. I'll go next and we'll finish with our guest star. Mine is batching, like batching communications. So you could have a block in the morning at like 10 that's like respond to emails. And then you don't check your email again unless obviously you're in like a client facing role that requires it until you put another block at like 4. And so you're only checking your email twice a day, and then you're knocking all of the emails out in batches. You could use this for so much, but like that is a really effective way where then you're not going to Gmail 122 times a day checking if an email's in. You just know you've already carved out time to tackle that problem.
I love that, actually. Stealing that very soon.
There we go. Kate, over to you.
I would say as an HR person, if you're an HR leader or HR adjacent, think of policies that are about the employee experience and not about the function. I feel like that will help you be guided to what will be practical from a culture perspective. And if you're still unsure, crowdsource. No one loves to tell you more about the best ways to use their time than the folks who are within their company. And you don't need to be an HR person to impact culture. Culture is like the everyday things that lead up to your full-on experience. So whether you're a senior leader, a manager, et cetera, I would say think about the things from a structure that could support batch emailing, putting emails with Slack emojis and whatnot. And that will be a great first step.
I love it. Well, Kate, thank you for being the third time on the pod. We love having you. Again, the SVP of People Ops here at Morning Brew Inc. and the host, the sole host. You don't even need a co-host. You're that talented.
I'm bad all by myself, y'all.
Sole host of the new Morning Brew Inc. podcast, People Person. Get that wherever you get your podcasts. Kate, thank you so much for joining us.
Ever welcome. See you for the 4th time, hopefully sooner than later.
Yeah, let's do it.
That's right. Let's roll the credits. Our producer is Michaela Heck.
Our technical director is Uchenna Ogu.
Brittany DeTaco is our audio engineer.
And our president is Devin Emery.
This show is a production of Morning Brew.
Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next week.
See y'all.